Hey everyone, welcome back. So we're diving into something very informative right now, and I think that we have the right person on right now to discuss such a thing. We have Ingmar joining us today from Norway. Norway, is that correct, Ingmar?
Yes, correct. Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And for those who don't know, you're soon going to find out and hear about this man more and more. I promise you. So I'm just glad I'm able to reach him before the Joe Rogan podcast and Tim Ferriss and those guys get a hold of him here. But Ingmar is with he's building a product that's really cool right now. It's called Algae Pro, and we're going to uncover everything. But this EP here, we're diving into waste management. If you've been paying attention and listening, we've had some conversations on logistics, waste management. Matter of fact, we're running a masterclass right now with Bob Potter, where we're discussing logistics, right? So and supply chain management, and I think waste management it comes in play, especially as we're discussing emerging markets in other parts of the world. There's just solutions I think is very beneficial. So it's a pleasure to have you on the platform today, Ingmar.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me. I'm really honored. Yes. So
yes.
Yeah.
So Ingmar, I just want you to give us a quick brief on who's Ingmar, right? What's going on in Ingmar's world, and then also if you could give us a synopsis on Algae Pro as well, and then we can dive into the conversation.
Of course, I'm looking forward to it. You can say I have a background from living in Norway, and I have been even as a kid, I was really interested in aquaculture to produce food and sustainable food from the sea. And I've been in this business for a long time, different parts of it. And I've always seen it as very important to take care of all the resources and not waste it. And when I was some years ago, I was working with salmon farming and the processing of salmon, and we realized that there was no waste management solution for the byproducts. So we started a career 30 years ago to take care of the byproducts and the waste to produce feed and a very high quality feed. And later on, I've been working with that for many years to develop products based on byproducts from fishery and fish farming, and developing new products both for feed, special feed, and for human consumption. It's really healthy, the fish protein, even if it's not from the whole fish. So a few years ago, I was driving from my home. I'm living on an island quite in the open sea, driving from my home, and did see the waste trucks with food waste. They were going for incineration. I found this is a crazy solution because also food waste is high quality if you treat it well, and it's a lot of resources going to be lost in the chimney, and that's completely crazy. Globally, we are actually wasting 1/3 of the food we produce, and first, we spend a lot of energy, fertilizer, and Arab land in producing it, and then we waste it, and all the carbon that is captured in photosynthesis going back to the atmosphere. That is really crazy. We can really utilize a lot of this, and that is why we started Green Tech Innovators and Algae Pro. We simply found that we will utilize it. We will find a solution so we can use it for as feed. So we started to figure out how we can do it. We started with developing a biotech solution where we could use the food waste as a fertilizer for microalgae production. And this microalgae is a very high quality protein and omega-3. And there is a tremendous and global demand for omega-3 simply because there is the most important omega-3 source is fish oil, and all the fish stocks are utilized, so we cannot increase it. But the aquaculture industry really need more omega-3, and we have found a solution where we can convert food waste into omega-3 and protein. And this is what we are dealing with now, and we are really really keen on growing this business. And of course, we need the investors to join us in this and to solve greenhouse gas emission, reduce that. You can say food waste is and landfills is responsible for 11% of global methane emission. And methane is a 70 times stronger greenhouse gas than CO2, for example. So we want to use this as feed instead of pollution.
Oh my! And we're just getting started.
Yeah.
I already have to almost flip my page with notes here. This. Oh man! This is good stuff. Okay, so now I like definitions. So before we dive further into this conversation, please define waste management, and then from there, I have a ton of questions to already ask you.
Yeah. If you look at the traditional waste management solutions, for example, for organic waste in general, a lot of it is going to be deposed on landfills, which is the really bad solution since you are producing methane. And the second worst is incineration. And of course, you have a lot of water in food waste, so there is no good energy in it. So that is also a very bad solution, polluting the water and air. And then you have some composting. You of course produce some soil, but otherwise it's not a very high quality, or you can say return on it. And then you have biogas, which of course produce some energy. So this is the four dominating solutions for waste management. And all of them are bad for the environment, resulting in greenhouse gas emission, and the economic value is quite poor.
Okay. Now I want to know. You said something earlier. You said agriculture needs more omega-3. Why is that?
Yeah, that's omega-3 is very important both for animal, for fish, and for humans. It's good for our brain, and as long as you can, the only original source is fish oil. And fish oil is actually this omega-3 oil, which is very healthy, comes actually from microalgae in the ocean, and it's accumulated in the fish. So we cannot increase this omega-3 without producing microalgae, because the fish stocks are utilized. So we cannot increase it. It's globally, there is around 1.2 million tons of fish oil annually, and this has been stable for decades. And the aquaculture market really need more omega-3 to grow, and also we need it for our brain to be healthy and smart.
Amazing. So from your solution now, and you're talking about even agriculture, the plants, and all of these various things, how is it utilized in the soil? Or is there not a correlation with utilization in soil and soil health? Because we know soil health is another thing when we're thinking about agriculture, right? What role does this play, if it does play any?
Yeah, of course, we can use it as fertilizer, but we simply produce a liquid fraction, which is we call growth media, and this can be used for microbes and microalgae. So it's simply producing food for the microalgae. So they will grow and produce protein and omega-3. We do this in what we call fermenters. It's simply tanks where we add this liquid fraction, and they grow very fast, and we can harvest them. And then you have omega-3 oils and protein that can be used, for example, in aquaculture as feed ingredients. We can produce salmon, we can produce shrimp and other seafood. And of course, technically, we can also use it as animal feed. But there is a tremendous demand in the aquaculture industry.
Now, there's in the States here, I can't speak for many other parts of the world, but there seems to be somewhat of a negative association with farming, fish farming and things like that. Maybe sometimes individuals who are not well informed may think, hey, this is is it real fish? What's going on with that? Can you break that? What is fish farming?
fish farming is using the fish as husbandry, just like we do with other animals. And fish farming is a very good way of producing protein. It's simply, of course, everything has their carbon footprints and so on, but fish farming is a good way of producing protein and omega-3. And you can say aquaculture has been growing now the last decade, so it's even producing as much protein and food from aquaculture as it is for wild fisheries. So it's a fantastic improvement in the production of food, actually, for the growing population. So it's really a good way of producing protein and omega-3. Of course, everything has some limitation, but generally speaking, it's good as long as you use it in a healthy and a sustainable way. So.
All right, so I have omega-3 capsules or whatnot. Is I don't say capsules, like the fish oil,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I have the fish
right.
oil that I utilize. Now, can Algae Pro be utilized the same by humans, or is it only through the animals or the soil and then humans, or can we digest it directly?
We can do it directly if we have the right raw material, yes. The microalgae we are using, they are a simply perfect fit for producing omega-3, also for direct human consumption, depending on the raw material we use. But this is really a healthy stuff that is in demand. So you cannot get enough fish oil.
Yes, I realize that there's definitely a difference. I've noticed just through noting, and I'm heavy into my fitness, right? I really love fitness, exercising, and learning more about my body. So I notice the difference when I am using fish oil versus when I am not. So I do know that there are some benefits to that. Now, let's bring in the emerging markets. You're in Norway. Norway isn't necessarily emerging markets, but I know that we have a common ground when it comes to emerging markets, specifically Africa, right?
Yes.
And we've already talked about here a third of food are going to waste globally, and in Africa, I know when it comes to produce, close to about 85-90% of produce go to waste based on where you get the data from, right?
Yeah.
And as you mentioned earlier, this comes after we've cultivated the land, everything, and now it's being wasted. So that's no good. How does a product such as Algae Pro help when it comes to food waste? How, because as we're talking about, again, we're talking about waste management here. Which parts of the waste management systems does Algae Pro come in to help solve these issues in Africa?
I can tell you as late as since we spoke for a week ago, I've been in touch with people and companies that are really keen on doing something in Africa. And I personally had done trials with fish protein some years ago. They are fantastic products that will improve the health. And if you have, for example, a diet that is not perfect, some fish protein will be a tremendous improvement in the health benefits. So I'm really eager to do something to utilize the waste in also Africa and countries, and we can do in principle exactly the same. We can convert the food waste and organic waste, generally speaking, by fermentation to protein and omega-3, and then it will be much more healthy feed, and you can improve the feed production or food production for example, directly or indirectly, for example, with producing tilapia, which is a very good protein source. So this is really something we are keen on working with to improve the waste management in also Africa and to produce more food and protein and omega-3. This is very good.
Just so there's no misunderstanding, please clarify a little bit more. When we saying food waste, are we only talking about fish or life underwater, or are we talking about food at whole? could be
No,
utilized?
food at all to be utilized. The agriculture has a lot of waste because it's not taken care of, and it's not processed quick enough. So it's food waste. It's from agriculture, large quantities that can be used also for ordinary feed. So this is food waste in general, yeah, and from the agriculture industry, tremendous quantities that we simply can process and improve and to produce this as feed for aquaculture and for agriculture. So we simply utilize the resources much better than we do today.
That's amazing, man. Okay, so and this is why you fascinate me, man. This is why you do. Now let's go a little bit more into AlgaPro. Where are you currently at in the process? I know you've raised some capital, but what's going on in the grand scheme? What are some objectives of yours right now?
We have a partnership with the local waste management company here in the west coast of Norway, and we have the infrastructure there, but still we want more capital so we can increase our business and also to expand internationally, including in African countries and also United States, because we all have the same challenge to improve the waste management and to utilize all the resources that we spend a lot of energy to produce. So we are simply looking for investors that have the same way of thinking as we have, and we can do a difference if we scale up this, and we can simply improve the food production dramatically if we scale this up in a global level.
Now, I know there are some countries that have laws in place when it comes to waste. I don't know them off the top of my head. I know Japan for sure is one of them. And there's some European countries as well that has laws in place when it comes to food waste. Maybe Switzerland may be amongst those, maybe France, I'm not too sure. But I know for sure Japan is amongst the select few that does. Now, why I bring this up is because, again, we're talking about waste management. I want to pick your brain a little bit. If you know about this process, how effective or efficient do you think it is to put laws in place regulating food waste?
Yeah, I think we have to do this in cooperation between authorities and the private companies. For example, in Norway, they have CO2 tax on incineration of food waste, for example. So it's getting more expensive, and it's then better to find other solutions. So it's simply a question of doing things and not talking about doing things. We can solve this if we really put effort in it and put capital in it. And then we have solutions that are much better than today's solutions.
Wow. Now, we're talking, you mentioned something a couple of times along the lines of emissions. What was it exactly? Yeah, greenhouse emissions.
Yes.
Let's say, theoretically, you were able to gain the market size that you're looking to gain. I'm not sure what market size you're looking to gain. Maybe you could share that with us since investors are listening anyways. But let's say that does happen. How effective or big of a role AlgaPro is going to play in cutting down these emissions? Do you have those datas?
Yeah, we have, of course, ideas. For example, we can go to large cities. If Norway is a small country, and if you go to a city like London, you have 3 times more food waste than we have in the whole of Norway, 1.6 million tons, for example. The same in China, you can have one city with about the same. And then it's very, very efficient to have a processing plant like ours to do this, because we can do this very, very efficient, industrialize the way we do it in the nature. So it can be very efficient. And we simply reduced the local greenhouse gas emission, and we improved the food production indirectly. So there is a tremendous potential in this solution.
Now, have you thought about any other solutions outside of omega-3s, any sort of other nutrients that could be beneficial as time progresses? The reason why I ask is because I've been looking into, for instance, okay, we see even with like the UN, they have their sustainable goals and all of these good things, right? And part of that, education is amongst that. Poverty, hunger, all that stuff is in their goal. Now,
Yeah.
education. When we discuss emerging markets, be it Africa, be it Latin America, whatever it may be, we start talking about education. The youth,
Yeah.
especially in Africa, average age across the countries are around 18 years old, right? So now, and then with a growing population more than anywhere else. Matter of fact, the top, when you look at fastest growing countries, the top 16, if I'm not mistaken, but for sure 15, but 16 are in Africa, right? So with that being said, we see young population, we see fastest growing population as well, right? And one thing that comes to mind, okay, how do we educate them and what have you? But I'm even starting to look even earlier, as in from the fetus, I'm looking at the child, the 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, because we know the earlier a child is reached, the better it helps with the development of their brain. But in terms of early age development, we now start to look at things like nutrition. Nutrition is often overlooked when we're talking about education, development of a child, because without the necessary nutrition, the brain doesn't develop as it should, or at least fully as it should in those earlier years. So I'm wondering, are there other solutions outside of omega-3 as far as other nutritions that helps with early stage development that could be utilized in emerging markets?
I mentioned for you a trial we had in Ghana some years ago. This was where we included fish protein in the traditional diets made of corn, and they became much more healthy just because of this improved protein quality. And we didn't need to add much, 5 to 10%, and that was fantastic. So this combination of protein and omega-3 in traditional diets will improve the health quite dramatically. That's for sure. And for education, it's much easier to educate young people than the older in my age. That's true. I had a very one of the best presentation I had was when I had a few years ago for kids in 12 years age. I presented what I've been doing during my life, and I had a table with tests, tasty stuff, everything from insect, fish protein, microalgae, and everything. And they were so enthusiastic that this was fantastic to see them. And with the people in my age, including investors, it's really hard for them to understand what we are dealing with. So it's really interesting. And as you say, in African countries, a lot of young people, I'm sure it's possible to educate them, but of course it takes effort to do so. But this would be a great thing to do. To educate them and teach them how to improve the diet, the healthy diet, and also to take care of the waste, and to reduce the waste, and instead use it as healthy stuff.
Now, you've been in the agriculture space, farming and what have you, since you were 12, if I'm not mistaken. So you're fairly young when you got started in this.
That's right.
Right. So when I see this product that you have here, that tells me that you've seen trends and you have some observations that led you to creating this as an expert
That's
in
right.
the space.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what were some of those leading indications? What are some observations that led up to saying, you know what, this is what the world needs right now?
I had a dream I'm convinced that the answer to more improving or increasing the food production globally for the growing population is in the ocean. But of course, we have to utilize the resources in agriculture first. But the ocean is the answer to improve the food production. That was something I found very early, and I had thesis on this at school. And the teacher didn't know what I was talking about. But now, later on, you can see in Norway, for example, we can produce 1.5 million tons of salmon annually. Since I was 12 years old, the aquaculture has been from a very small business to a really big business and a tremendous food production and healthy food also. So today salmon farming is big, and you have for the more expensive parts, shrimp farming globally is big. But the most important, for example, for Africa is tilapia, which is a cheap protein, and it's even bigger in quantity than salmon farming. And tilapia is a fantastic fish to grow. And I was, as late as a few days ago, I was discussing tilapia production based on our feed and local waste management. As I was thinking we can even grow the tilapia production even more based on local resources. And it's a fantastic protein source.
And by growing the tilapia production, what does that do for the economy, the African economies?
It is an excellent protein source. Quite often, protein is the limiting in many African countries. You have cereals and so on, but you are limiting in protein and to some degree omega-3. Omega-3 it's important, but it's smaller quantities needed. So to increase the production of protein, for example, with using tilapia, is a fantastic local solution. And if you can use local raw material as feed, then it's really a good thing to do.
Ingmar, man, it's been such a pleasure having this conversation with you. Seriously,
Thank you.
if I have to hold myself back because I think I will keep bombarding you with questions, but
yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, and you, as you know, I'm quite enthusiastic. We have a lot of things to do, but we can do it. But we need the authorities, we need innovators like me, and you need investors. The investors cannot sit and wait now. They must. There is hope. We cannot lose the hope. There are a lot of challenges in the world nowadays, but we cannot stop hoping and we cannot stop acting. We can do something, every single one of us. That's the important thing. And we can find solutions. We cannot go into depression. That doesn't help anyone. So we must do something together, and in combination, everyone do what they can. We find the solution, the investor find the money, and the authorities do the regulatory issues. And then we can solve all the challenges. Anything can be done together.
And one thing I've come to realize since I've been in this space, I've had conversations with thousands of investors. I've read probably somewhere in the ballpark of 2,000 pitch decks, and what I've come to realize through my observations, just being in this space, is that investments are made mainly in the person, not necessarily the project. The project obviously is important. The innovation is important, but it's the person that's being invested into, because most solutions you find here, but it's like, okay, these are similar products and solutions, but who is the person that can execute? So it comes down to the person. And again, you've been in this space since you were 12, right? And I know right now you're probably in the ballpark of 28 or something like that.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
So I know you're still a really young man, but
Yeah. Young in
getting it
mind. Young in mind. Young in mind. That's important. We cannot lose our
right.
minds.
And I see all the books behind you. So, like you said, young people learn, right? And I see all the books, so you're still learning. But
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
with that being said, who better to have conversation with than literally someone who's taken the action, as you said earlier, and really understand the space and creating innovation. So, with that being said, again, I know there's a lot of family office listening to this EP. To the podcast, there's a lot of general partners, investors listening to this podcast, and even entrepreneurs who may know the likes of family offices and investors. So, with that being said, this is the person to be having a conversation. I started this podcast here stating that this is someone that we're going to see on the Joe Rogan, the Tim Ferriss, and all these big podcasts down the road here. And I really believe it because this is an actual solution. This is real innovation. So again, Ingmar, thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thank you very much. I'm honored, and just send the investors to me. Send them the email, and I will tell them how to do it.
Amen to that.
See you. Thank you very much. It was nice meeting you.